Okay, time to analyze the trailer for Chapter 5. We don't need an intro, you know what's going on, let's go. Okay, so of course we're just going to skip all the old stuff and just jump right to the first new thing shown, which is showing off a battle with these new Darkners. Now right off the bat, they seem to be a new variant of the Floradinn, and this was also confirmed by Toby later on social media. At first I thought they might be cactuses, with all their spikes, but after looking at it closer, I think the idea is that they're just more normal flowers, and these spikes are just supposed to be their petals. I do think they look a little weird though, like I think they might be a drawing of a flower instead of a real one, because I feel like their colors look unnatural. But the fact that these guys are related to the Floradinns in some way, I feel like has a lot of potential meaning to it. But I also feel like it can go in a lot of different directions depending on what happens. Like depending on who makes the Chapter 5 fountain, this could tell us more about the Chapter 1 fountain, or how Dark Worlds work in general. You can read this as evidence that Chris made the Chapter 1 fountain and will make the Chapter 5 one as well. Or you can read this as Asgore being connected to Chapter 1 in some way, if he makes the fountain. Or just that the will of the person making the fountain affects darkness less than we might have thought it did. Or you can read it as evidence that the knight will make the Chapter 5 fountain, even though that doesn't make a ton of sense for other reasons. I feel like this Darkner is important, but I don't want to jump to conclusions on it and fall victim to confirmation bias. Now, a few days after the trailer, Toby shared a little bit more about these guys, revealing their names are Floradinn, and shown a picture of one sleeping and another one that at first I thought was holding a thing used to pick up trash, but after a second look, I'm pretty sure it's actually a lever to control train tracks, since it's wearing a train conductor hat. So I guess Chapter 5 will feature some kind of trolley problem. This combined with the overall Japanese theme are really giving me Undertale Yellow flashbacks. Now the next thing shown in the trailer is another battle against Trashy, Super Saiyan Newbert, and Evil Orbs Man from the Amazing Digital Circus. This fight is clearly taking place in Castletown, and is for the Battle Dojo. I really don't have anything else to say on it besides that I think it looks cool, and looks fun. Now this next clip is of this new pot Darkner, and if I had to guess this will be in the first area, which I'm guessing will be the whole field of pink and gold. We'll probably have a lot of sakura trees. Besides that, I don't have anything else to say about this, to be honest. But this next clip and the full screenshot shared in the press release is a lot more interesting. Of course, the first thing to take note of is the glowing feather. I've seen a lot of people react to this saying that they think it's the White Pen of Hope, and I don't agree with that. I don't think the White Pen of Hope is a real item. You know, it's a metaphor and stuff. As for this feather, I think it's actually a power-up that will let us run across the water here, and this is what this other clip is showing. Another thing I want to highlight is how the grass and the wall right below it are the same tile set as one used in Chapter 1, which is another thing connecting Chapter 5 to Chapter 1. And one last thing I want to mention is I've seen people saying that this part here looks like Friend, and like, yeah, it kinda does, but seeing people say this immediately gave me flashbacks to how people were saying that Chris was in the glass in the Chapter 4 trailer, and how that turned into a total nothing burger. And like, I was one of those people that saw Chris in the glass, and you know what? I've learned from my mistakes. This is not some secret friend shrine. This is a nothing burger. People are just seeing things. I mean, okay, Friend might show up in Chapter 5 and stuff, but it's not going to be because of this, okay? Now this next clip is arguably the most interesting one, as it's Chris in a solo battle against an enemy we can't see at all. And the bullet pattern is exactly the Cyan Soul bullet pattern from the Flowey fight. And I think this is really cool, and I feel like it kind of soft confirms that we will be fighting at least one of the flowers as some kind of boss fight, and that they will be either like the Fallen Humans or like Flowey, maybe even both. Because yeah, if this is somehow not at least a mini boss fight against the Cyan Flower, I'll be kinda shocked. But you know, Toby can be misleading sometimes when it comes to promotional materials, so it could be something else. Now a lot have pointed out that Chris is alone here, and while this is for sure at least somewhat important, I don't think it necessarily means we will get a long, extended solo Chris segment. And to highlight what I mean, think back to the first Spamton fight. That was also a solo Chris fight. And that was Chris leaving Noelle for 5 minutes just to go fight Spamton, and then we joined back up with Noelle immediately after. And I think this fight is more likely than not something similar to that. Now, what do I think is going to happen is that we will need to hunt down and fight all the color flower darkners throughout the Dark World, and I think the party will split up at some point to go after 3 of them at once. So I think Chris will go after the cyan flower, which is what we are seeing in the trailer, Ralsei will go after the green flower, and Susie will go after the purple one, with each being a solo one-on-one fight that we do back to back. And that's my guess for what's going on here. There's also this shot of the party sliding down a big vine, but I don't really have anything interesting to say about it besides the fact that you can look closely, you can see some bells and some kind of ribbon thing on the side. Yeah, there really isn't much to say about this half-second clip. But now, cutting to the end, we see the party sitting on top of a building in the Dark World, watching the sunrise. And honestly, I think this might end up being the biggest thing from the trailer, despite it not even being real gameplay. Because I feel like there is a good chance that this sun ends up being really important, and maybe even connect to the Inferno of Jealousy potentially. Because while I do think this is likely meant to be some kind of sun lamp in the light world, it's also possible that it's actually like a giant ball of fire magic, and that this will grow out of control and burn down the Dark World potentially. But you know, that's just a theory. But overall, the sun does feel like it's going to be a very big and important thing in the Dark World. So not only is having a huge sun in a Dark World already pretty weird, I think it makes a lot of sense that it would be super important in a Dark World where all the Darkners are plants. Because plants photosynthesize. They get energy from sunlight. So I think how the plants will interact with the sun will be important to the plot of this Dark World. And if this sun were to, say, go out, that could also have a big impact on the Darkners in this chapter. I think how the darkness affects plants that need light to live will likely be an idea that gets explored in this chapter. But now I want to cover the other image that was shared that wasn't in the trailer. It's the only look we get of the light world. We get to see the festival, and most importantly, we get to see Noelle in the party. We don't really know when exactly in the chapter this will be, but it is cool to have it confirmed that we finally get to walk around town with Noelle, and have her react to stuff. I'm really looking forward to that. I also really want to touch on the website, namely the logo effect that looks like a magical girl transformation effect. So I think we will see some kind of magical girl character. Since we already have one of those with Mew Mew, I think there's a good chance she will show up. Maybe not Mad Mew Mew, it could just be a Darkner of normal Mew Mew. Since Alphys talks about showing Mew Mew to Asgore, but I could also see a new magical girl character showing up as well. So to wrap this up, I just want to go over some final thoughts about the teasers overall, and some final predictions for the chapter. I think the Japanese theme looks really cool. I'm pretty excited for it. As for my idea for why it is this way, I'm gonna guess that it has something to do with what Flower King was before Asgore moved in. Because Carol owns the building, and she's a huge weep, so my guess is that this used to be Carol's Japanese antique store in the past, that closed down because people weren't buying enough ninja stars. Also, this has nothing to do with the trailer and stuff, but speaking of Carol owning a small business, I think Carol owns Icy Pizza, and she's actually a pizza freak. Because, like, no one but Carol would be crazy enough to put ice on pizza, and there is some evidence for this, as she has an icy inflatable arm flailing tube man in her basement. And why would she have an icy ad equipment if she didn't own the pizzeria? This may or may not be plot relevant, but yeah, I just wanted to say that. Okay, back to Japan. I think we will see a character who is going to be super Toho inspired, just like in general. I think Zune is the secret dev Toby mentioned that one time. And that all being said, Apple Girlington has never been more real. If she doesn't show up in some way, I'll actually be surprised. Also, Woody Theory is real, and it's going to most likely be the yellow flower, and it will most likely just be a mini-boss. And speaking of that, I could see it being like Asgore's Cowboys versus like Carol's Ninjas, or something like that. Not necessarily for like Woody Theory, but just like in general, that happening. Now that's about everything I feel like I want to say about the trailer and last minute theories and stuff. I honestly do feel pretty optimistic about this chapter. The only things I really want to see happen is Azrael showing up and Ralsei being the Red Hood Headband. Like, as long as I get that, I don't really care that much else about what happens. Like, I hope something cool happens with Carol, but like, I'm sure something cool will happen with her. And I don't really care what we do as long as it's cool. I feel like I don't really say this enough, but if you liked this video, then you should like and subscribe. And if you're interested in hearing more from me, you should follow me on social media. I have a Twitter account if you still use that, and I also have a Blue Sky and Tumblr. Honestly, I don't post on them much, but you know, I would if I actually had people following me on it. I also have a Discord server which I'm much more active on. If you're interested in talking to me and other like-minded Deltarune fans more directly, then you can join the server. Links to all of the things I mentioned are in the description. I also want to mention one last time the Deltarune Theory survey that me and Cheruba made. Please go fill that out if you haven't already. It's important to record the history of how people felt about, you know, the theories and stuff in the Deltarune, you know, theory landscape before the new chapters come out. It's an important part of, you know, recording history. If you want to support the channel, you can do so over on Ko-Fi or Patreon. I don't make any money from these videos because my channel is not monetized. So, you know, any support is greatly appreciated. Thank you all for watching.